Welcome to True House Stories. I'm Lenny Fontana coming out of New York City, and I'm so proud to announce this guest. She won the only time the number one coveted position in DJ as one of the best DJs in the world at top 100 back in 1992. Seems like a long time ago. And mind you, how far female DJs have come through everything that she's gone through, adversity, hardships, coming up the ranks, and building a huge career. Joanne Joseph, aka Smokin Jo, like Smokin Jo Frazier, kicked behinds one turntable after another. And yes, I will say this, the woman can play. She knows how to mix. She knows how to do it right. She don't play like the new school people, like the sync button. She plays for real because there was a time when decks were meant to be put with vinyl. And you had to learn how to mix. And if you didn't know how to mix, you were forced to learn how to mix because everybody else around you was mixing. It was like you got to keep up with the Joneses. But this woman took this worldwide, and even wrote a book. And I'm going to let her tell you about that, pieces of the book. We're not going to go through the whole book. But everybody knows on this show, somehow, some way, jing, 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 we get a little inkling of stardust, something that they never said before, never done before, and they'll tell us. And hopefully today we'll get that little piece of information that makes True House Stories the show it is. So I'd like to welcome to the show the greatest, the female DJs, Smokin Jo.
Hi, Lenny. Thank you for that intro.
Smokin Jo.
Yeah,
She
hello.
kicks ass.
That's me.
One turntable to another. Welcome to the show and thank you for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. Honestly, really, thank you.
I've learned through her timeline and reading her book has been absolutely, I can't put it down, but we'll go over that in a moment. The book is just incredible. And I just want to get that first question out. I'm going to let her paint this story a little bit and then we'll ask some questions.
Yeah.
How does music find the young Joe, Smokin Jo, to get us to become the smoker on the turntables?
Yeah, well, funnily enough, I had a very traumatic childhood. So I was brought up in a children's home and it was in the 70s. So it was very kind of an odd time. And it was outside of London, a very kind of suburb. And they didn't allow you to have any music. So I didn't have any music as a child from birth until I was about 9 or 10 when I moved back with my mum. So I only ever heard classical music and Christmas carols, I guess, that kind of stuff. So it wasn't until I got to live with my mum, that's when I first heard music. And once I heard music, that was it. I couldn't get enough. And my mum had stuff like Motown and Bob Marley and all this stuff. It was just opened my eyes. So once I heard it, that was it. I was sold.
Now, I do remember there was a time when you were behind the counter in retail. Yeah. I do remember that. So
yeah.
That'd be right before you broke out and became, the DJ in London. But I know you were a big part of helping all of us and all the DJs find the right music because I know you're a music collector.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually work in the record stores. I was just in there every single day, and they used to let me go behind the counter because I used to just be in there all the time. So I was playing all the music, picking the tunes, and sometimes I would be serving people, but I never actually worked at Black Market Records. But yeah, vinyl is something else, isn't it? I loved it, and once I heard house music, I couldn't get enough of it, to be honest.
What was the first house record you heard that you remember?
I think it probably was Dion, Come and Get My Lovin'. Probably that one, because I was out at this party and the whole night they were playing like kind of rare groove and stuff. Because that in the late 80s, that was what everyone was playing. And then suddenly this beat came on and this groove and this little vocal, and I was like, what is that? And I was like, okay. I think after that they played Marshall Jefferson and stuff.
So here's the moment I always ask people, and I've had this asked to me as well.
Yeah.
It's like, when did you meet Jesus? When I say that, it's like, what club was that moment where you saw something and you said, oh my Lord, I want to do this, or I want to be part of this?
It's a tricky one, because obviously that first night it was a club called Enter the Dragon, which was a really cool club in Kensington in London, and that was where I had first heard house music. And then it took me another month or so of going out every single night, and then I was just like, something came over me. It was just like this wash of emotion and music. And I think that was the night I also looked up and realized I'd never seen any women DJ, and I was like, nah, I'm going to do this. This is for me.
And what made you come up with the idea of changing your name from Joe Joseph to what we know it as Smokin Jo?
Well, in the 90s or whatever, late 80s, 90s, all the DJs seemed to have nicknames. It was like Paul Trouble Anderson or Kid Bachelor or Jumpin' Jack Frost. So all these names were like, I just thought they were super cool. And I didn't want to use my normal name, you know, from the background I had, it associated too many negative things. So I thought I'd make a new kind of persona and have something a bit more fun. And one of my favorite labels at that time was Smokin Records. So I was like, yes, Smokin Jo.
Is that the Smokin Beats label?
I don't know if it was called Smokin. It was like a graffiti, big letter said Smokin with no G on it. And what was that record that was on there? It was Ralphie Rosario or something like that. It might be Smokin Beats, but it was a New York label, yeah.
Oh, if it's Smokin, oh, I know the label.
Smokin, yeah.
Yeah.
Blue.
There's also the UK label around 91-ish that came out.
Yeah, that is not that one. No, it's the New York one, Smokin.
So you were seeing all the names.
Yeah.
And you felt, I got to have something super cool.
So I think I felt that. And also because I didn't want a female name, because it was still new. There were female DJs at that point. I mean, there was Nancy Noise, Lisa Loud, DJ Rap, you know, Princess Julia. But I didn't know about them so much then. So I just thought, right, I'll just have a name that's a little bit, you know, who's that? What are they, you know? So
did we also come up with some silly names? Like, I shouldn't say silly, but like Queen Jo, you know, the Bees Jo. Like, when you
there were some awful ones, Minnie the Mix, and stuff. I can't remember the other ones, but yeah, they weren't good.
Okay, so describe your first night DJing. Did you know, some people talk about they ran around and collected records from friends. They didn't have no experience. They were thrown in the situation.
No, because I was working in the shop, just about 5 minutes walk from Black Market Records. So I was buying records every single day. So I knew my music. I had lots of music. It took me a few months to buy the decks. I kind of was bought one deck, then another deck. So I was practicing every single day I could at home. Can't say my mixing was that great, but I had a selection. So I decided to do my own party at home. So my first gig was my own party at home with Shock Sound System, which is Ashley Beadle, who's from Express 2. He had a sound system. So yeah, I made my set like meticulously. I knew exactly the order. I did special kind of mix. I was mixing like hip hop and house at that point. So yeah, it was actually went really well, surprisingly.
See, because sometimes you hear, I've heard people tell me over the years that they didn't really know how to beat mix.
Yeah.
They just jumped in and said, all right, you know, it's like jumping on a roller coaster. I'm just going to do it. And whatever happens.
Yeah, I knew how to beat mix, but I can't say I could do a 3-minute mix. It was like I could get from one track to the other sort of thing. But I did a couple of mixes that were like blended for a few minutes because I just worked on practicing on getting that right.
The beautiful thing about the UK was, before this house thing really took off, the guys used to talk in between the tracks. So there was really never mixing back then. So it was kind of like, you were all right. If you couldn't mix, they would just go, the next record's really hot.
Yeah. Well, definitely not on the scene that I was going on. You had to be able to mix. And when I first started playing Trade, all the DJs were just insanely good at mixing. So I kind of learned on the job once I got that gig.
And that's important to explain that, because there was no thing called the sync button then.
No, there were dodgy needles, dodgy mixers, dodgy sound systems. So it was like potluck. Like every gig you got to, you had to just bring it, and you had to concentrate hard. And you know, sometimes mistakes happen, but I think the beauty of mixing with vinyl is that you're doing something, you're creating something. It's work. It's not press the button and go, you know.
Did you feel intimidated at all with the male chauvinism in this industry, being so male dominated at any time?
I probably did, but I didn't let it affect me. I chose to not go down that road. So I just kind of put my head down. I was going to be headstrong. I mean, as well, having the name Smokin Jo, I shaved my head at that point. So it probably looked a bit like this if it was just, but it was no hair. So guys often weren't sure if I was a guy or a girl anyway. So I managed to kind of slip between the cracks kind of thing. But I'm quite an independent person, so if someone's going to be, you know, misogynistic to me, I'll give it straight back to them. You know, I wasn't going to take any crap from anyone. So there was a lot. And first few gigs I had, you get guys just in front of the decks like that, just looking at you, just waiting for you to make a mistake, and they wouldn't dance.
Well, Frankie Knuckles used to tell all of us, baby, don't you go to that bathroom, because if you come back, you may not have a job.
Really?
He told us just like that. He said, do not go.
Wow.
Go to that bathroom. Or should I say the loo?
The loo. That wouldn't have worked for me, because I go to the loo at least twice every gig.
See, that's why I wanted to ask that question, but back in the day when you were at Trade, were the sets 2 hours or they were longer? Was it longer night?
No, that was a very New York thing. England was either 2 hours. Once you went on the road to the big kind of raves, it was 1 hour. But in Trade, you got a good 2 hours, yeah. And all the London gigs, you got a good hour and a half, 2 hours, which is not that long, I guess. So when I started working at Ministry of Sound, obviously they sort of fashioned that as a New York club. Then you played 5 hours, which was just amazing, actually. I didn't think I'd be able to get into that. I thought I'd get tired, but you're just warming up after 2 hours, and after the next 3 are just like, yeah, you can be much more creative. So I think it's nice to do a long set.
And that's the magical part of those long nights, right?
Yeah.
These kids don't gather that. They're
No.
so used to the wham bam.
That's it. It's the wham bam. It's not a flow. It's like you have an art to it. It's making new music out of old ones. You know, that's what I say. Mixing is getting 2 old records and making a new one out of it. It's creating, and it should be fun.
So, how long would you say you grafted to the point to when that golden road door opens?
You know, I got lucky, or it was right place, right time. It was probably only 10 months, maybe, of doing a few little gigs, giving out loads of tapes. And then it was Trade, I think, because Trade opened, and that was the first illegal after hours. So there was nowhere else to go in London. So people used to go there. And then so you'd get loads of promoters and other DJs coming along. So that made me get my kind of name out a lot quicker. So yeah, it wasn't long, 10 months, and I won the DJ of the year in a year and a half.
The same year that
No. I started in 1990. Didn't really get going until sort of beginning of 91, and then won it in 92.
And now, at that time, how many other female DJs would you say were around?
Probably like 6, maybe, something like that.
6 females plus yourself, maybe 10 that we know, maybe.
Possibly.
Because there was probably local women too playing quietly. They weren't as big.
I think in 1990, not really. Like I said, it was the 3 or 4 I just mentioned, and then obviously it'd be Paulette would have come along in Manchester. Yeah, it was still kind of short on the ground.
The other question is, you know, men have a funny way of having different relationships with other men. In other words, in friends and working relationships.
Yeah.
I find with women, they're always sizing each other up. Did you find that as you know where I'm going with that? You know, it's like, was that, did you get, let me put it like this, did you get a welcoming feeling when you were around the other women, or was it more like,
No, we were really like good mates. Like if we see each other out, we're on the same bill. It's like, oh my God, yeah, you know, there was never any competition or anything like that. I think we knew that it was only a few of us, so I think we need to support each other. It's always been like that. It's actually really nice. Yeah.
yeah, because you know, you just know that from friends,
Guy.
jealousy, experience. I was just always wondering when you're in that position that there's
I think if there were hundreds and hundreds of female DJs, then you've got more competition. Like, okay, we're all kind of because there's so few of us. It was like it was like, well, not really our competition. Really, we need to stick together.
right. We need to help each other, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Just support.
Where did the first international gig take you from this stardom? Because I know you're doing a lot of UK stuff, but where was that first spot? You were able to get on a plane and go?
Well, that was really early on. It would have been 1992, and that was Tokyo. The promoter from a massive club in Tokyo called Gold had come to trade and heard me and one of the other DJs, Malcolm Duffy, and they said, "Yeah, just come and play." And I was like, "Wow!" Yeah, for me, I was really early days, and Tokyo was insane. This was a huge thing for me because the club was stunning. It was like 3 floors, huge sound system, and like every name under the sun had already played there. And there was a massive wall behind the box with everyone's signatures on it. So that was my first international gig, and it was a good one.
I remember that club very well.
Yeah,
playing. Yeah, no, it was a fab, and the crowd knew the music.
Yeah, well, I think the Japanese can be very what's the word? They just when they like something, they like it, and they will like know every single thing about it. So yeah, I really enjoyed Japan, and the sound systems were just oh my God, yeah.
When the excitement and stardom was going on, of course, everything that goes with it, privilege, you get the red carpet rolled out for you. Did you realize how long or how difficult it would be to keep that level of success when you're in the middle of it?
I was never thinking very far in the future. I did fall down that road of drinking way too much and taking drugs. So I was on a roller coaster, and it was one day to the next. And to be honest, the gigs were just coming in. I was turning down so much work. To me, in my head, it was never ending. It was never going to stop. So I didn't look at the bigger picture. I just was like having the best time of my life. Early 90s, it wasn't still probably seen as a career. It was just, oh, you're a DJ. What's the other job? So no, I was just enjoying myself.
If you didn't go into DJing or the music industry, what would have been your career? What were you thinking about?
That's a really good question. Because I was working in a shop. I really loved fashion, but I was also loved photography and film. But again, in the 90s, it was really hard, especially as a black woman, to get into the film industry. So I don't know. I might have just stayed in fashion, possibly.
And I could see that because you have all the makings of being in fashion.
Yeah, well, I used to model in my early
look, 20s. The height, the frame.
Yeah, it wasn't really for me. That was I'm quite a shy person, so to be a model, obviously, you need a lot of confidence. I was okay on the catwalk, but I didn't like the photo shoots. And when I was doing it in the 80s, it was just racist and sexist as hell. So they weren't even looking at black models. I think Naomi was just coming up at the same time I was modeling. So she was the first one to make it, and everyone else was just fodder,
Yeah, it seems like that's always the case. Is like the one.
Yeah, there's only room for one.
One that cuts through, and everybody else is fighting for that same slot, and it's really difficult.
Yeah.
Because I remember back then, you would say, "Oh, well, I DJ," and they go, you know what I mean? Like, what do you mean you just DJ? I'm like, just DJ,
Yeah.
But let's ask the other question. when was the affair for making records as a producer begin?
Well, I never had that in my head to make records. It was Simon Dunmore, and he was just started Affected Records, and he said, "Look, I really want to get this whole stable of UK producers because we're all buying American records. We all look up to the Americans. Let's start doing our thing." And he literally shoved me in the studio. He's like, "You have to go in the studio." So he put me with Eric Cupper, who I was already a massive fan of, and we started making a few tracks. So I've always been a bit lazy, to be honest, in the studio because I had so many gigs. I always put the studio second, but I love making music and obviously watching people dance to your stuff, but I don't do it enough. I'm kind of starting to go back in a bit more now because I've kind of got more time in my hands.
Did you realize how important that was on a global circuit, or you just was encapsulated with the DJing?
I was encapsulated with the DJing, again, taking way too many drugs, so I didn't realize the importance of it. Obviously, I was playing these tunes and watching the reaction, and I should have clicked like, oh, actually, I should do more of this. But I just, when you're traveling 4 or 5 days a week, and then later on in the 2000, I moved to Ibiza, so I was taking like 6 flights every weekend. By the time I got home, I was exhausted. There was no time to go in the studio.
And that's the question I have. With all that flying, partying, DJing, why stop doing the drugs and the alcohol? Why? Because that's part of the mingling. That's what
I think you have to stop at some point. None of us are getting any.
Hang on. We got to ask the Rolling Stones.
Well, it's so acceptable to drink and take drugs behind the decks. It's not looked down on, so you can get away with it for as long as you can. But then the toll starts to take that you can't get up in the morning. You're depressed. So all these after effects start to build up, and then you're like, is this really worth it? I took myself to rehab because I knew I wasn't an addict, but I thought I just need a break, and this is habitual. So I think that sort of woke me up, and I felt really good about myself. So then I stopped taking them I still have a drink with dinner and stuff like that. But
well, how long you've been off the drugs now?
Well, I went to rehab at 40, so that's a good 17 years.
Could you ever see yourself back to that again, ever?
Oh my God, no. The last time I took it took me a whole week to recover, and I felt sick, and I was in bed, and I was like, this is it, never again. I think your body can only take so much, and I've got no need to. I think, I've changed as a person. I am shy, but I was painfully shy when I first started. So the drugs and the drink were my support system, so I don't need that anymore because I'm.
So I do remember hearing that you were doing yoga and you were a health nut too. Is that correct?
I've always been a bit of a health nut, even though I took all those drugs. I still eat healthy in a week.
Wait, how's that work? You're doing? Wait, let's do all this.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I mean, I was when I was a kid, I used to do ballet, and then that transited to contemporary. So I always danced throughout my whole adolescence. So once I was DJing, I needed to move my body. I started doing yoga. So I've always eaten well and done some sort of exercise. And then about 8 or 9 years ago, I did my teacher training. So I do yoga and I teach yoga. It's great.
How many days a week are you teaching yoga?
What's that? Sorry?
How many days a week are you teaching yoga?
I teach quite a lot. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's 4 days a week. And there's 11 classes I do on those days.
Do you do the hot yoga too, or just the
No.
Why not?
I don't like hot yoga. I don't want to sweat that much. And I think it kind of encourages you to push your body a little bit too far. So no, mine's Vinyasa flow. It's soulful with really good music. I spend a lot of time on my playlists. So yeah, it's slightly...
So that's why your music selection is so hot. Because number one, you are a dancer first and foremost, correct?
Yeah.
So when you're picking music out, it's more like what you would dance to. Am I right?
100%. If I can't dance to it, I'm not playing it. And I also connect to bass lines and grooves. I want to hear that bass going into me, you know, I want that heart thumping away. So yeah, I definitely see my set from the dance floor. And I'm very empathetic. It's something that I've had to acquire. When you're growing up in trauma, you have to always look around to make sure that you're safe. So something that I can connect with people's emotions really quickly. Oh, they're not enjoying that, I'll put something else on. Or just little mood swings I can pick up on very quickly.
So you actually pick up on the body movement of everyone that
Yeah.
you're able to telepathically see and feel how this music is working.
Yeah, I think that's how it works.
Well, you know what? Not everyone has that. I find people who are great dancers have a fantastic selection in music.
Okay.
You know, they know their music. It's when you hear a DJ, sometimes you go, I'm not connecting with them. The music just doesn't do anything for you. You know?
Yeah.
And dancing is a big part of what we do. Even though we're playing the music, we're still dancing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I used to go out every single night. I was very naughty as a kid, and my mum used to work at night. So once she'd go to work, I would go out. When I was 13 years old, I was going into the West End in Soho and going to all the parties, and I just used to dance completely sober all night long.
Even though everything else around you was happening, but you were completely sober at that time.
Yeah, I didn't drink until I was about 21 or something.
Wow.
But I did drugs when I was 13.
Well, that's what you say, completely sober. That's
was 11. I think it was 11 I first took my first drug. But anyway.
Let me clarify this better. Were you incoherent? It's more than sober.
Well, when I was dancing, yeah.
That's part of dancing.
Yeah.
It's supposed to sweep you away.
Yeah.
And that's what, you know, somehow each piece brings you to the event of what you did next. It just doesn't happen. It's like a domino effect. Each thing you experience like a movie, and you put this in your mind, and then that one moment where you see somebody do something like you said, the DJ and that club and that excitement and the energy, and then you say to yourself, I really want this. How do I get this? You may not even say it out loud. It's just a matter of intentionally in your mind, you're going, this is meant for me.
That's right. I think I have this very strong visualization power. And most of the things I want in my life, I've just visualized them. I've wanted them so much that I've just made them happen, sort of thing. It's just that belief, isn't it? And also, I just couldn't imagine doing anything else. I was like, this is it. And like you said before, what would you have done? I have no idea, because it had to be this.
The power of intention.
Yeah.
And now we're in the me now generation. And this is why, you know, I'm so glad I was able to get you at this time, especially, you know, ladies and gentlemen, she's got an important book coming out, a tell all about her life. She sent me that book. I couldn't put it down. This is what I'm going to ask you. What was the encouraging moment to start writing?
I think it was just because I wanted my story out there. I wanted history to remember that there were female DJs, and I was there, because a lot of women get written out of history. Also, coming from trauma, being in this abusive kind of childhood place, I wanted to show that you can come from kind of a crappy time and make something of yourself. And also to show the good and the bad. Like, you know, it looks to people from the outside that I've got this amazing life. It's very glamorous. I'm DJing everywhere. But they don't know what's going on inside. And it's a complete opposite for me. A lot of the time I was very depressed and upset and shy, and I felt like I was ugly. And, you know, so it's a lot of stuff that's to unpack. And I just think it's quite interesting for people to kind of see that. And I don't have any children. I don't have any parents anymore. So I don't have to kind of sugarcoat it. So it's very open and honest. So I hope people will appreciate that.
Are you currently in a relationship?
No, I'm still single. That is another. I think that's the second.
For God's sake.
Yeah, that's going to be the second book. I think it's like the dating. I mean, oh my God. Yeah.
No. As a glamorous DJ, is it easy to date?
No, it's not. I think if you're a guy, it is, because women are quite happy to kind of maybe follow you around and go to your gigs and take second place, so to speak. But when you're with a female DJ and you've got your boyfriend, they don't particularly like it when you're in the limelight so much, or people are talking to them, they're not talking to, so you're talking to you, not talking to them, or maybe you're earning more than them, or you're always in there, they're always in your shadow, or, you know, that's how they see it anyway. So it's been a struggle. And also traveling a lot, it's just hard to keep a relationship going.
So what you're trying
I've just got very bad taste in men.
What you try and tell me is you cannot have any kind of a man who has any jealous tendencies.
Yeah.
He has to be very passive and accepting of everything you're doing.
They do, or just, but you know, yeah, I think it's just having confidence in yourself. Just because I'm doing a job doesn't mean I'm any better or whatever than you, or if I earn a little bit of money, or if I want to pay for you, it doesn't make you a bad person. I think there's still that old-fashioned kind of attitude of men should be providing for women, which is just like so archaic. And I think a lot of guys get stuck on that, and they just don't feel that they're manly if they're not providing and doing everything for you, you know, which is lovely. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Love someone to do that for me. But they don't like that doing it for them.
There's a few women DJ that I've had, like Sam Divine. It took her a couple of times. She found love after it all.
I know, lucky her.
Found someone that who actually does what we do. So he understands, and he's not in competition with her.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the hardship of who's. Let me put it like this. Sometimes with certain people, it's like that first place position. They want to be first.
Yeah.
And it can't work.
I don't know. I've tried being with someone who's in the industry, or people who are, you know, in entertainment. I've tried normal jobs. It just, nothing seems to work. So for now, I'm going to put it on the shelf and just see what happens. So
tell us the name of your book, because I love it.
My book is called "You Don't Need a Dick to DJ."
You don't need it.
It's okay, you've got one. Yeah, I just wanted something that was quite out there, because I want this book to appeal to everyone, not just to people who are into house music. So if they don't know me, they see the title, they think, oh, okay, they might find that quite intriguing.
What did the publisher think when you came with the name?
They absolutely loved it. They
did it. Even
though no, they were like, yes. Yeah, no, that was part of the plus point.
Tell us how long does it take to put that together? You know, from inception to the delivery.
Yeah, I mean, I have been thinking about doing this for a good 8 or 9 years. So I already had it in my head, and I had quite a few paragraphs of these kind of stories already laid out. And I'm not a bad writer. I'm just a bit slow. So I got a co-writer to help me, and he was really quick, like super, super quick. So in all, it probably took about a year, maybe just under a year.
Those things in the beginning that I read, which I'm going to leave to you to say, they're pretty in-depth, everyone. You'll see what I mean. She's pretty open. Was it hard to revisit that stuff? Because a lot of people try to run away from it. And I know when you write stuff down, you sometimes say to yourself, how did I get through all this? Right?
Yeah, no, I completely get you. I think because I've had so much therapy, I had 6 years therapy in my 20s, and I had 4 years and then another 2. So I've rehashed this so many times. So it didn't feel like a struggle. It was quite nice to get it out. Yeah, sometimes it would be like, wow, that is heavy. And also the my co-writer, Terry, he was like, wow. And it's only when you get the kind of someone mirroring it back to you, then you kind of realize how awful it was. But for me, I've kind of put that to bed now, really.
A personal question.
Yes.
You have your sister, correct?
Yeah.
Have you both forgiven your mom, even though she's not with you any longer?
Yeah, but I don't think we ever felt, we never were like hating on her or anything. No, we both loved her. I think it's an internal thing, isn't it? I think she did the best she could. It was the 70s, and she was a single parent, and she had to work. So what could she do? Yeah, no, I think we're good with it.
Because one part, I will say this: some of the things I read, now, if that happened in today's society, we as parents, we would all
Yeah.
be locked up.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
But back then, it was, I guess, acceptable. It was,
It was acceptable, or there wasn't the state getting involved. You know, you just got on with it, didn't you? It was all a bit rough and ready.
Did she have also a group of people around you guys at the time, even though like a support system of friends and like you would call it extended family? They're not really family, but you know that were around you girls.
No, that's the problem. We were very isolated because we didn't have any extended family in England, apart from my mom's cousin, and then it was just neighbours and friends really. So I guess our next door neighbours were the closest people we had to family, I guess.
See how steamy the book is. One part I remember, you went to Trinidad first time, and you met the extended family.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And how quick did you want to get back to
Oh
London?
my God, I do. I wanted to come straight back. You know, being a shy person anyway, and then meeting this family that you have no connection with, you've never met them, and I'm half Indian, so I'm half Indian and half Nigerian. So that's the Indian side. So we're both, me and my sister were like the only kind of black kids there, and it's just like you don't feel like you fit in. They're lovely, you know. It was interesting and it was good to see them, but yeah, strange.
Do you talk to any of them now? Any of the kids?
No, I don't.
No?
No, I don't. I think when you're brought up a certain way, I don't feel the need to be reaching out to all these people because they were never there when I was a kid. So I have no need for it at all.
Why do you think your mom left Trinidad to come to England?
It's a good question. I think a lot of West Indians did because they were given this promise of this life in the UK and great jobs with good money. So, and I think it was so small in Trinidad. It's like I think she had bigger plans. So I think a lot of people came very wide-eyed to England and they got a very big slap in the face when they got here. But yeah, I think it was a change, you know, something else.
And being that Trinidad is a commonwealth of England,
Yeah,
made it easy in a sense
yeah.
to make the transition.
That's right. They all had British passports. They were British citizens. So they were all asked from the Caribbean to come to England to help rebuild England, the national health, all the buses.
Correct.
Yeah. Like the
thinking in their mind when they had, say, that passport saying, oh, we're British.
Yeah.
What happened when all of you living there?
They were just, everyone was so, I mean, the English were just so racist. They were like, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. It was really hard for people to get places to live. They just did all the worst jobs. You know, a lot of these people were coming from the West Indies, and people don't realize that the education in the Caribbean is so high. My mum spoke with the Queen English. Her writing and her reading was beyond, but yet you were given some menial job to do. So people were going down a step here when they came here. You know, it was hard in the 70s. I don't know how they did it. I would have gone straight back home if that was me. But you know, they're a tough bunch, so they're still here.
That's why I said that word adversity.
Yeah.
Hardship. You're making it through. So let's just say your mother's bloodline did rub off on you because you broke through the barriers of a male-driven operation.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, and hats off to you on this. Before I ask you the last, few last questions, most importantly, right now you're where you are. You're going to be doing a book tour, I presume, correct?
Yeah, I'll be doing some tour dates of the book, readings, and I've got my book launch on the 23rd of May.
Where do you see yourself going in the future? Where's Smokin Jo rolling to?
It's funny. It's a bit full circle because I said earlier I always wanted to be in film and television, and now I've written this book. I'm getting offers for documentaries and films, and this is me now. I'm like, okay, I can see this. I would love to get involved in doing a film or a series of this book. So I see that, and more gigs, doing really good gigs, and definitely some more music. So I'm just putting it all together. You know, I'm still teaching yoga. I kind of like bringing the yoga to these festivals. So I teach yoga at Defected festivals and people love it. So I've got a lot on my plate. I just need to fit it all in.
Right, that's the thing. You got to be able to kind of juggle this properly. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of people. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you bring in the yoga to the festivals. How does
Yeah, I
it
think.
work?
Well, we do it from like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We just do like a 2 hour wellness session, yoga or meditation or breath work or all this kind of stuff, and they just love it. People know that they need to not just be drinking every night, so they like a little antidote. So I think it's becoming a thing now, actually, a bit of wellness. You know, Glastonbury been doing it for years and all the festivals, so it's a nice thing.
As far as the wellness, I know.
Yeah.
Here's the funny part. So they tested the water, I think, 2 years ago near the Glastonbury Festival to see how much barbiturates were in the water, and it came back.
And
It
how
came
much
back,
was in there?
came back pretty high. That
Oh,
the level of barbiturates between cocaine and everything was pretty high in the water.
oh wow,
Yeah,
nice.
so I know everybody's trying to be on the health kick,
They're
but
trying. They're trying. It's all about balance, you know. There's nothing wrong with going out and having a good time, but do something else as well.
so we're gonna see a documentary too.
Oh yeah,
Are you
yeah.
taking this tour just in the UK or all around the world?
Well, it is UK at the moment. I'm going to do a little thing in Ibiza because obviously that's like my second home. So yeah, see what happens.
God bless.
Yeah, thank
You
you.
are the woman's woman.
Hey,
Smokin Jo, I can't thank you enough for sharing your time with us.
thank
And
you.
I'll tell you the truth, everyone. I could have asked thousands of questions, but in light of her doing a documentary and everything else, she had politely asked me to keep it so that she has good, tasty stuff for her upcoming things. But
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much,
much.
Lenny.
Catch you all next time right here on True Stories. Take care.